We are coming into our match of the week to find out who is the ultimate bank between CTBC, Flying Oysters, and Mega Bank Beyond Gaming. Before we go deeper into the details here, we do have to give a big shout out to our sponsors in CTBC Bank and Caliber. Now, we have heard CTBC quite a bit, and I think you all know from our commercials that they are the top financial institution in Taiwan. However, we're not going to be biased about this coverage here. We're going to give Megabank a chance here as well to see how they will fare.
Yeah, and for sure, you have to be CTBC favored in this matchup at the moment, just because of how much more dimensions they've shown besides being our sponsor when it comes to in the game of League of Legends. Because on the flip side, we've talked about it, we kind of insinuated towards it earlier in our pre-show, that for the side of Megabank Beyond Gaming, they have struggled when it came to macro play. It's really about the lane phase and how Husha can mitigate any early game aggression to then be able to bridge over to those mid-game team fights where they can allow those individual mechanics to shine. However, in this matchup, even then you could say CFO do have the slight advantage in that regard.
Oh, that's definitely true. CFO early game, I think all of our viewers know CFO is by far away the best early game team we have in PCS. They're averaging over 4,000 gold lead at 15 at this point. But first, we're going to be taking a look at Megabank Beyond Gaming. Liang in the top side, Husha jungle, Minji in the mid lane, Wako and Kino in the bottom side. A lot of questions to Minji, as his style of laning is basically he doesn't show up much for the laning phase, and against Mission that's going to be really rough. However, I do want to say that on Brajaya Dragons, he has been able to actually defeat Mission and J-Team previously with his Orianna, so not all hope is lost there.
Yeah, so Minji, while his Orianna has been the most played in his career, you would certainly say it's about these assassins. So getting comfort for Minji here in this draft is going to be very, very important. And if we had to highlight one lane besides the jungle where Husha's role is going to be very important in putting out fires when it comes to these lanes, I would say Liang has been the strongest performer or in the most consistent performer on the side of not CDBC, but Megabank Beyond Gaming. And on the flip side, he's probably against the strongest member on CDBC in Rest. So it should be a very tantalizing lane matchup out of all the lanes.
The two do bring very similar styles into this one as well. They're both fighter oriented, they both like a little bit of a BM, and they both also love Hullbreaker. So we could be seeing a mirror of two players that are very similar, but we'll find out who is the better one here. Take a look at the bot lanes from CTBC. Very strong performances from Atlan and Koala there as well. Do see a strong liking for the Aphelios coming out from them. And on the side for Mission, he has shown that flexibility between playing teamfight and also sort of that Uniboy streak of playing the early game, especially with that syndrome.
Yeah, Mission has, I would say, stepped up a lot from his J-Team year last year, where he's been able to really assert himself in the lane phase and also still have a little bit better roaming impact. But the highlight is going to be Wako and Atlan. Atlan also massively stepping up from his days over at Machi, where he was really the weak side player. He kind of just scales up. Maybe he contributes a little bit of something towards those mid-late game team fights, but it was all about that top half dive heavy focus coming in from Machi. This time around, it's a lot more different. They want to play more team fight style, and he has delivered in that regard.
Always showing up for those team fights. You can tell in the First Blood participation that I think CTBC still finds most of their early action in the top side for sure. Only 14% there. And those two AD carries will be your sort of Aphelios first players. So you have your Jinx first players. Both of these are Aphelios first. We're going to go into the ban phase directly. Syndra, way too much of a threat, especially against Minji's champion pool. They're going to take that one right out. Gwen, also the most picked from Rest, is going to hit the ban board. And for CFO, no surprises here. Zeri outside. And Husha not going to be given a carry potential as the Diana goes away as well.
Right here, I would look at the Kali pick for the side of CFO. If they're looking for something to ban, that will be the ban. Now, BYG. Tryndamere has interestingly been a big focus for the side of BYG and just getting a big carry champion for Liang, but instead, they're actually going to prioritize this Jinx. Naturally, CFO, they can go ahead, take this Aphelios on this rotation, or go ahead, leave it to that third pick. But for sure, I expect to see the Aphelios get locked in before the second phase. CFO, they'll go ahead, lock themselves in that Lee Sin here. Nice champion for Gemini. Also, of course, being able to attack the early game is something that we highlighted to be key for CFO in this matchup. And we'll see what they go ahead, lock in for, I would assume, mission here, as the Rise will be that lock-in.
We have seen that 1-2 combo just come out. A strong root followed up into the execution from Lee Sin. Could be very deadly pre-6. CFO are setting themselves up for strong early game success. Meanwhile, Beyond Gaming, hovering the Ahri, which Minji has played before, one of Faker's favorite. Let's see if Minji can pilot this one. Hasn't shown a lot of success across major regions, to be perfectly honest. I definitely feel like this is a champion you have to snowball with. Meanwhile, Tryndamere is going to get locked in, and Aphelios hovered for CFO.
Nothing too surprising here with how this first phase is going. Minji on the Ahri, of course, has mobility, has a lot of playmaking potential, and I think that's what you want in a champion for Minji. Allow him to dictate what individual plays he can make here. And for Liang, this is just a champion that he's played numerous times, as he is currently perfect on the champion, which of course will be something to highlight going into this game against such a titan as CFO.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Liang can pull out that hull breaker performance once again. I do expect Rest to have some sort of a counter to this Tryndamere. We'll see if Beyond Gaming decides to target out the top lane. Koala so far has played a very standard pool, so I do think most of these bans should be going towards top. Indeed, we have the Game Blink being taken out of the pool. And on the flip side, Hecarim being taken away from Husha.
So CFO, go ahead, take away the Hecarim again. Like, this is a good matchup for Hecarim. That's why we are seeing the attention thrown towards the Hecarim, even though the success hasn't necessarily happened quite yet. And they'll go ahead, follow up with the Viego ban. And of course, when you do have such heavy dive threats in the Tryndamere and the Ahri, it can allow you as the Viego to find a lot easier resets, being able to get onto that backline. And then, of course, if you're able to kill one of these high resource champions, then you're able to take control of those resources yourself. So BYG, they go ahead, ban yet another top lane champion. Obviously, they want a solid matchup for Liang and at least make it a much more comfortable matchup, as the Graves will come through. And of course, this is, I would say, very Tryndamere favored after you get through the lane phase.
We have seen Graves be able to push that Tryndamere in, but once that Undying Rage comes up, it does become a little bit more difficult. Beyond Gaming now trying to think of a jungler to match up with this triple dive composition that you did mention. A lot of reset potential here. And Maokai's an interesting one. I wouldn't be overly surprised if Kino picks up some of those champions. He loves playing stuff like Set, like Rakan, but he is going to go with his Leona and Rek'Sai coming out from Husha. Okay. Super interesting. We've seen a lot of Prowlers coming out from this champion. Excited to see if that's going to be the case here. CFO now trying to pick up a support. As we said, Koala keeps it pretty close to the standard champion pool, so I think this Nautilus is most likely just going to be a lock-in. Could go for the Tahm Kench, but Nautilus definitely still a very strong choice here, and it does get locked in. So what are our win conditions coming in from both sides now that we have the full picture?
Now, this is a very interesting draft coming out from BYG. Of course, this is a team that wants to just let the game happen without interacting a whole lot. But Huxia this time around has gone for this Rek'Sai pick, which means this game is all about the Rek'Sai. If Huxia is able to get ahead, which we were able to somewhat see yesterday, I believe it was in the hands of Taco. He went for the Stride Breaker in that game, so definitely have to follow closely to see what the build path is going to be for the Rek'Sai. But if she is able to get ahead early in this game, that could provide then the dive threat and the bridge necessary for them to hit those mid-late game team fights for the rest of these carries to come online.
Yeah, and I think that really answers the question that you posed. How is Beyond Gaming gonna go to the mid game? That has been their biggest hurdle when facing these top teams. They just don't make it through the laning phase. They have the 1-3-1, they have the dive drafted, and it doesn't go past 15 minutes, basically. It's dead on arrival. So this Rek'Sai could be a great answer to a lot of their woes. You know, Rek'Sai isn't the same macro champion that she was seasons ago. She's pretty much a one-shot champion that we've seen from that combo. We'll see if it can work out with this Ahri, who also has to be played super aggressive. You know, we've been seeing the LCK, and the general feel is that if you aren't hyper aggressive with this pick, it just doesn't tend to work out. You're much better playing just the traditional mages here. So we'll see if Beyond Gaming can kind of fix their long-term issues going up against a flawless CFO as we head on to the Rift and the Battle of the Banks.
Nothing too surprising here coming out right at the start here, although BYG looking for perhaps a late invade, but if they do that, that's probably just going to end very, very poorly, as there is a 4-man death squad circling around them if they get a little bit too close to that Raptor pit.
Kino's gonna do it. He's poking his head forward, and CFO have read the play. Mission shows up. They will
Minji's here now.
Stuff here. Wait. No, it's actually just a straight 4v4, and they actually find Gemini first, despite walking into a death trap. Liang has
Mission's
over
gone.
the wall, and he's got another kill after that flash. That was what? How did Beyond Gaming win that? That's absolutely insane.
In the words of Kadril, that was absolutely illegal. But this is the power of Leona, right? With the Aftershock, you're able to just kind of walk in, proc Aftershock immediately, and still be able to survive all of those cooldowns. And as a result, it's going to be CFO off to a poor start, even though I felt like that their level 1 setup was just superior in that regard, but it was not to be. BYG get the start that they dreamed of in this matchup.
Well, I guess they don't have to worry about how to get the mid-game after that. That's for sure. I just want to kind of go over some of the details that happened there. Aftershock was a great point by Kino. He procs that, walks back, and just goes out of vision. And the other thing that we saw right there is Mission was kind of weird to see Mission go out of the brush that late. It looks like he was a little bit hesitating on that move there. I didn't go in as soon as the team started to open up damage there. And also the flash afterwards was definitely a waste of a flash. He just kind of lost track of Liang in that play. So it's kind of weird, because I definitely felt like Mission was kind of out of the loop in that one. And now Huxia
now they're going to get a free gank here. No sums.
There's nowhere for him to go. He's just dead.
Yep. Absolutely. Fantastic gank path coming in from Huxia, and this is, of course, one of the powers of Rek'Sai, in that you're able to gank from these unorthodox angles. Yes, you can do it somewhat on the Lee Sin as well because of his ability to dash over the walls, but it, of course, doesn't have that same setup in being able to CC a target and immediately just make things so easy for your mid laner to follow up. So, well executed coming in from the side of BYG, and really they're just taking advantage of this early gold lead that they were gifted to continue to snowball around the lane that is really, really hampered.
We are going to get Boots 2 coming out from Minji again. Going to be very hard for Mission to survive this lane. I do expect a lot of lane control having to come out from Gemini just to keep his mid laner alive in this one. And Husha now moving into the bottom lane. We do have both summoners up still for Koala and Atlan. But in the meantime, Wako definitely pouring a little bit of salt on the wound. Just getting a culling right off the base here. He's going to be very happy with that. Leon doing some light trading. And don't really expect anything here due to the vision advantage. But overall, it just seems like a very difficult laning phase for CFO to now contend with.
Yeah, and this was really nice coming in from Wako, being able to get that cull. He's identified that, hey, this Lee Sin probably not going to target me anytime soon because of the fact he has died and lost a little of that pace and how much control we have over the jungle area because of how strong our Rek'Sai is. And now they're going to go ahead, contest Raptors. We'll see how many of them they'll be able to steal away, and it does look like they're able to get really nice control over this area. So this is going to be a play that happens over and over again coming in from Husha, because he knows that the Lee Sin isn't going to be able to clear these very, very quickly, and now he has a gank attempt perhaps on this top side.
Slow does go down onto Rest, but Husha feels like it's a little bit too close to the tower, backs out and waits a little while longer. You can see Rest has those alarm bells tingling in his mind as he throws so many question mark pings across the map. At the end of the day, he will stay relatively safe, and his vision will actually catch Husha here as he goes back into his own jungle. Something I'm super excited about is we do have a serrated dirt coming out from Husha.
Yeah, so we have the serrated dirt. That's of course going to lead into one of these lethality items. Hopefully it's the Prowler's Claw. That's definitely a stronger pick when it comes to trying to snowball early game advantages.
Minji is going to ult right in. Does find the charm. Husha comes in with the flash. Goodbye, Mission. That's his third death this game. I don't think he's died that much in a single game the entire split. CFO do get the Drake for it, but they will be able to walk away. Husha not able to close that surround just quite yet. And Koala walks away very happily from Kino's engage. 3v2 potentially happening right here. BYG Gaming not going to push it though.
Yeah, it will be CFO, of course, trying to back off, knowing that their mid laner was on a recall. And Liang now able to hit level 6 without any sort of issues. You can look, no difference in CS. And of course, having that extra kill means that he's able to get tier 2 boots early on, which is really, really important in these melee versus range matchups because it just makes up for the gap. And now a fight.
Oh, Atlan gets caught by the Flame Choppers, but is able to cleanse out. Last auto attack goes through, and he still falls down. A little bit too far forward. Koala now the second target. Double kill going over to Wako. Beautifully done. Atlan just gets caught up by Kino and pays dearly for his mistakes.
Yeah, and now we're really starting to see this Beyond Gaming squad come into their own here with, of course, a beautiful early game leading into Gemini really shut out of the game. That means these individual playmakers, this individualistic team is able to go ahead and showcase those individual mechanics here as they get that first kill beautifully done, and beautiful tanking coming in from Kino, understanding we do have a heal, and that extra move speed also used to make sure that last auto goes off sooner rather than later.
Everything going wrong for CFO right now. The solo lanes, Mission versus Minji going sideways, and the bot lane losing straight 2v2. Now we have another 2v2 coming up here. Can Gemini salvage the situation? Rest goes down before anything can happen. He's trying to look for a kill, but Leon blocks the Q, goes in for more, and finds the double. Great mechanics coming out from Leon, saves his jungler, and picks up even more gold for himself.
And in a battle of unbeatens, Liang's Tryndamere versus CFO's perfect record. It's looking like Liang is going to have that pristine record maintained. And Whew, it's looking really rough now for CFO, because if you look at their composition, it's not like this composition scales insanely well, right? They're very low range, and this Rise pick, while you're going to get a lot of value out of the tank build with the Frozen Heart against this squad, the issue is you don't deal a whole lot of damage. So the fact that Beyond Gaming are so far ahead means that it's hard to turn things around because you are going the tank build.
Yeah, the problem with them is even when going with the tank build, Beyond Gaming are so fed at this point,
yeah,
that they can just burst through. It doesn't even matter. Like, I definitely see like CFO's draft as being a little less coordinated. It's more of a tier list draft. So you have Husha running in, trying to find people here. Not gonna catch anyone out just yet, as Liang knows where the jungler is on the other side of the map. It's gonna go straight in for rest. No sums on him so far. Undying Rage not there yet, but he doesn't need it. Finds the kill just as easy as that. Straight walk in onto rest, and unfortunately Graves is gonna pay for the sins of his jungler.
And now Liang, he just really gets to tool this matchup. Because of the fact he knows as well that Graves doesn't have the ult, he's not worried that he doesn't have his own ultimate. And of course now he's going to have his own ult back up. Means he can once more look for that kill, and this is just going from... I don't even know how to describe it, because it's already a disaster for CFO, and it just got turned into a calamity, I suppose.
Yeah, they can't survive any of the plays that Beyond Gaming is throwing at them. I think that's going to be the main issue here. There's so easy to burst people down. We've seen it already plenty of times in this game alone. Husha can just flash on you. If you don't have flash, you're dead. So it's very hard to turtle in these circumstances. We could be seeing that 18-0 dream be shattered right here, and I just want to share with you a post I saw on Beyond Gaming's Facebook. They were basically having CFO laughing like, yeah, we're gonna finish the first round with full wins, and then someone comes behind them, and it's Beyond Gaming as they come in to shatter CFO's dreams. The meme game from these two squads has been pretty damn on spot.
Yeah, and the big factor here moving forward into these through the game is the fact that we have Lucidity boots. Oh, okay.
Liang going in right in front of Gemini might not be the right call, as he doesn't even get to pop the ultimate. Gemini finishes him off with the execute.
Wow, okay. So Liang not given the time to use that ultimate to keep himself alive in that moment. It will take the first death for the side of Beyond Gaming, and CFO, at least they found a trade. The issue is they still lose bot tower and that dragon, so Beyond Gaming still trade up, but at the same time, like CFO, they haven't found any trade so far, so the fact that they were able to get something is positive signs.
It definitely is. At the very least, that's a morale booster when you're down 4,000 gold. I do want to mention the builds here coming out from the top side. We have Liang actually going for the Gale Force. He has put his favorite item, the Hull Breaker, on the side for this one. What do you make of this coming into the matchup against Rest?
I think, well, Gale Force is more than enough against a champion like the Graves, where you just want extra sticking power. He was going to go for it regardless. It really just comes down to bypassing the Hull Breaker, and I think Hull Breaker is more of an item that allows you to break an even standing moment or Giga Snowball a certain advantage. But in this moment, the fact that they can just smash CFO in the next team fight, Gale Force really helps you snowball that certain advantage. Instead of just playing in the side lane by yourself, you have more than enough damage to destroy a Graves with just this Gale Force purchase anyways. That why not just build a little bit more team fighty oriented build, and they're gonna crack this tier 1 turret as well, so claiming all those turret plates, further extending Liang's lead and further hampering CFO's ability to try and respond, because it's just a 4-man death squad now.
Yep, CFO have one less member here, and they're going to try, but the ult goes down, and they can't run away. Koala will flash out. They find some damage across the wall onto Husha, but not enough. Atlan will finally dissuade them with the Moonlight Vigil. They still lose the tower, but that was a pretty stalwart defense that CFO was able to hold their ground.
Yeah, and Koala will exchange his flash for Husha's flash. At the very least, you trade up somewhat in that situation, but still a very dire situation for the side of the Flying Oysters. Now, we're looking at some of these mythics completed. On the flip side, we have both Everfrost completed here for the mid lane, so really trying to now look for picks. Of course, Mission hasn't really had a say in this game so far with that Realm Warp, so maybe now that he's level 11, he still has a small CS advantage, so it's not like he's that far behind. When it comes to individually, if you can even compare, well, the itemization to his respective opponents, but he hasn't been able to actually dictate anything on the map yet.
I do want to mention, those are some pretty sad stacks from the Rise. He didn't get to get his tier on the first back, and it's 15 minutes in the game. He's less than a third of the way towards completing a tier here. So, this is probably the worst game we've seen from Mission in terms of a laning perspective. And not completely his fault for sure, but definitely not going as smoothly as he wanted it to.
Absolutely, and part of the reason why he goes for a late tier is because he just needs more combat stats because of how much attention has been thrown to his lane. So he gets the early Merc Treads, he gets, of course, the extra health from the Everfrost build, and that's helped him bridge to this tier finally. And the tier is still going to stack up relatively quickly because you are Rise, but certainly that power spike will get delayed, and that might be enough for BYG really to close this game out in the next team fight. That's really the big window that they're looking for. This next team fight, if they get a 4-5-man wipe, that should essentially just bring this game to somewhat of a insurmountable lead.
We do have that 5-man push coming in now. Shelly isn't even damaged on the first push. Gemini looking for an angle. He isn't spotted just yet. I believe he is now on the radar, though, because of that Rek'Sai. Husha doing a very good job sticking to the wall, making sure that Gemini doesn't find an angle. Beyond Gaming not going to push this one too far, but they do have a Hextech Drake on the table here. And unfortunately for CFO, they're just not going to contest. Like, as you said about that tier build, I think it's a pretty clear signal that Mission is just saying, well, we don't even have a mid game. Oh, that's so unlucky from Gemini. But fortunately for him, Minji's not going to press his luck here.
Yeah, he understands a lot of his team are on that objective down in that bottom side of the map, so he just decides, hey, I'll just hold on to this ult cooldown. I'm not going to take large risks, because I don't know who's there to back up Gemini in that situation. Usually when a jungler jumps through the Hex Gate, it could mean a couple more people are also following the jungler through the Hex Gate, so I can understand why he's a little more reserved on trying to take that play.
Yep, Gemini also still had the flash, so it likely would have been able to make an escape if he so chose to. Meanwhile, we are just getting into the phase where Beyond Gaming is, I think, setting up for the Baron at this point. They're so strong. Their burst damage is absolutely insane. I do want to ask you about kind of your favorite builds for the Aries, because we have seen a lot of Aries actually go straight for the Death Cap. Like, it is a very powerful item. She has insane damage ratios, and she has true damage as well, so sometimes you can just kind of go over that. You can't just decide to just skip the Void Staff or the Blighted Jewel in some cases. Just because of the fact that you do have true damage added to your Q, it's just so much burst damage that they can't really ever itemize against unless if they're really stacking a lot of health. Kino might have overstepped though, or could be Koala. Definitely looks like Koala in this step. Kino has been so good at walking himself into traps and surviving them. I think he's doing it pretty intentionally. Knows that CFO have to get vision. He's going to pick up an easy one there, and now we have a 3-0-0 Wako with bounties as well. So there's multiple points that people really have to focus down. CFO can't really find anyone to burst down. Leon just goes in, gets the ultimate from Rest, and continues to push for his team. No answer, still a 3-man stack here on the bottom side. They have to be careful about Minji, who could be trying to intercept. Let's see if Mission... Oh, he's got that spider senses, is not going to walk through. Maybe they do spot him on the ward, but Beyond Gaming will still take the bottom lane tower for it.
Yeah, another interesting adaptation coming in from Rest is the fact that he has also forgone the Hull Breaker, and it makes a lot of sense here because even with Hull Breaker resistances, given how far behind you are against a Tryndamere, it won't matter. So he's gone forward to try and give himself the best opportunity to make an impact in these team fights while still being, he's still going to be okay. I mean, he's not going to be that much worse of a spot against Tryndamere because it's already pretty bad. So I like the build adaptation coming in from Rest as well in this instance. And going back to your question about the Ahri build, I do like the adaptation Minji has made in this particular game, going for both Lucidity Boots and the Everfrost, because you really just want to maximize your pick potential against CFO to snowball your advantages here.
Rest instantly has to pop the Ghost to get away from Leon. Leon holding on to both of his summoners, but now he's going to turn around on Rest. That was a very interesting play here. On the other side, we have the Baron take being started. 3-man on the bottom lane. Gemini have to do this one alone. We have Atlan and Koala slowly moving in. They are going to try for this one. There is going to be no smite difference in Season 12. And a lot of damage being done to Kino. Beyond Gaming starting to back out of the pit. Is CFO going to hold here? Yes! The Baron is healing back up, and CFO do defend on both sides, though they still have to chase a very pesky Leon around their own jungle.
Yeah, it will be the side of CFO having a very admirable defense around that Baron buff, able to deter the side of Beyond Gaming from fully committing to that objective. Kino almost... not sure what Kino was trying to do. I know he wanted to keep the Baron aggro still on, but he almost ends up giving his own life away in that situation. So CFO, I mean, it's still a bad spot by all means, but they've given themselves that lifeline by continuing to stave BYG off. And for BYG, this is where they hit a bit of a trough when it comes to their team play, because they aren't the most coordinated squad in the PCS, especially for a top team. So they're really contingent on finding these picks, like where Koala was.
I've been with Beyond Gaming the Worlds, and I can completely attest to what you've been saying. They play around picks. They play around kills. They're super bloodthirsty. When I'm in their comms, I don't really hear much about a wave control or like teamfight setup. It's about getting kills across the board, and they're very good at it, as we see another flash being burned away by Rest. No sums on him so far. The next dragon is going to be so incredibly hard for CFO to contest. They're going to be down so many summoners at this point, and honestly, Beyond Gaming could just turn around for Baron and pick people off as they come in. Very tense moment for CFO. Let's see if Gemini can find a pick here. We've seen great insects from him, and we've seen Wako be the victim of those insects, so perhaps there is a chance here. See if they can find a flank. Koala slowly moving in. Minji is going to tag him with the charm. Everfrost goes down. Kino goes in. The fight is on. Pusha about to find that kill. It will be Wako across the wall. It's a double kill straight off the bat. Atlan has to retreat behind a wall, and that should be Baron unguarded over to Beyond Gaming.
Should be a very easy Baron take at this point for the side of Megabank Beyond Gaming here, as they are now up 12 kills to 1. Absolute domination when it comes to bloodthirst and really complete map control here. So CFO they're going to have to concede this Baron, and it's really all about the Baron defense. And unfortunately for them, they don't exactly have the best wave clear from range. It's going to be very, very risky for them to actually walk up and clear some of these waves. So it will be a very difficult defense of their base as well.
Beautiful play coming in from Minji. Staying out of vision of that ward was so smart as he hides in the corner right there. Gets his full combo. And I just don't envy being Koala in this game. Walking around the map in a massive deficit with no flash. I can't even blame the guy for having to do that play, as we see Rest now being the target. Still has his Ghost, but it's going to be hard for him to make an escape. Does dodge out on Kino. Will get slowed down. Stun not there. Waka walks back to avoid the damage, and Husha is here to pick up the kills. Does have that chilling smite. Let's see how long Rest can delay this. Just doesn't seem like quite enough. Doesn't hit the minion wave either. He would have been able to maybe push a wave in, but isn't going to be able to accomplish that one. And we just have a Fright Train heading towards the base here as Beyond Gaming send a 3-man push towards the bottom side. CFO, everyone has to retreat from this one. Mission might fancy his chances in a 1v1 here, and he does actually have a decent chance of making it out.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, he's going to be able to walk out of any trade against the Tryndamere because he does have that ultimate. He is relatively tanky, but this is the big power spike, right? And the fact that he's now completed the Frozen Heart, he's very, very close to completing the Thimblewinder.
Oh no,
and
Koala.
That will be...
Koala trying to dodge, but overplays his hand, stays in range way too long. Minji going across the wall, now finding a charm onto Mission, but does he overplay that as well? Does have the Zanyas, goes back across the wall.
Deep.
Now it's Kino's turn. They can't save him. It's about saving Private Kino.
Young's hunting.
Oh, but he gets kicked back. Great move from Gemini. It's not going to stop him out forever, though. He goes in and Waka follows up. Is going to get excited. They do pick up 3 kills going into the enemy base, and it is wide open now. The inhibitor soon to follow. It looked pretty dicey on a couple of occasions, but Beyond Gaming make it work.
Yeah, but the big thing is, for the side of CFO, they are able to find kills, which means that this game should continue, and it won't be the base absolutely shattered. And that's massive for them, because if they can keep buying time, yes, they're going to give over Hextech Soul, but their best opportunity to get back into this game and win the game is through Elder Dragon, and I think they've done enough to prolong the game around another 3 minutes, or at least until that next Baron does spawn. So while their best chance is going to come after that Baron buff, at least it gives them a chance to make it.
I just want to say Elder Dragon's actually still pretty far off. Beyond Gaming are only at 3 drinks. So, well, they did buy them that 3 minutes for sure. We're going to be taking another look at these plays. Really cool stuff from both sides. Atlan and Gemini did about as much as you could possibly do in that situation. They do hold off for sure. And now we still go back into a state where Beyond Gaming has a massive advantage onto the map. There's so many different ways that they could honestly play this one. What do you think is the most effective strategy for Beyond Gaming to close this one off?
For Beyond Gaming, it really just comes down to use this Hextech Soul. Maybe you wait for the next Baron buff and really leverage your 4-1 potential, because of course Liang is just so giga huge at this point. He is the Giga Chad at the moment, and if you're able to then leverage that, like, for sure the game ends on this next Baron buff, barring a very disastrous blunder coming in from BYG, just because they have so many fight stats advantages. This Hextech Soul is so good for their team as well because of how attack speed reliant they are, and the amount of pick potential they can generate with the extra ability haste on top of it. So they can also look to just try and end here because of that extra battle stats.
There's very few targets that CFO can focus here. 3 stasises on Beyond Gaming and 1 Undying Rage. Yep. You could probably just kill Kino. That's the only one that reasonably you could find dead.
And even then, The issue there is they don't have the damage to burst through a target like Kino because we have Atlan.
Kino's just walking up, Mission just getting charmed, rooted, stunned, and falls down just like
no
that.
damage.
I don't know what he was doing there. Atlan's going to go down next. That's the two carries. Beyond Gaming is going to strike one for Mega Bank, and that's 4 down. Rest does find one back, but it doesn't matter anymore. Beyond Gaming with the biggest win of the first round robin, saved the best for last as they take down CFO and shatter the dreams of CTBC's Flying Oyster of making it an 18-0 split.
In a massive surprise today, we will see CFO take their first loss before facing PSG. When it came to looking at the schedule, with them being 7-0, it almost felt like it was just all leading towards them being 8-0 and concluding their final game against PSG as the real test if they would get through this first half unbeaten. But I mean, I'd imagine almost everyone is surprised here, unless if you are on the side of BYG, that they come out with the win here. And you can watch that game and go, okay, well, they got the first 2 kills there. Mission has to burn the flash. All things are leading towards BYG being able to get a lot of major early game lead. But again, we weren't sure how this team would respond if they were handed leads, how well that macro game would translate. And in this game, there was still not a whole lot of macro game decided because it was just like, oh, hey, we have so much leads and their jungler can't do a thing. Now we can just be ultra aggressive in the lane phase.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. This one was a bit of an outlier because of that level 1 for sure. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's not going to happen every single time for Beyond Gaming. And even though we didn't get to see CFO's, kind of composition come online at all, like, I agree with you in the draft phase that in theory, they actually should have won a lot of these lanes in terms of the Graves push, in terms of like the Rise Lee Sin being a little bit easier to execute. So it's definitely, I think this one, if I'm CFO, I probably will just chalk it up to level 1 mistakes. They made a very risky gambit and they lost that gambit hands down. So that kind of strayed everything else. But I do want to ask you here, do you think that this is this perhaps is something new from Beyond Gaming? Do you think we actually got any secret strategies out for them, any growth for them, or do you think this is just kind of the same old but with a better start?
I would hate to say absolutely not, because at least they came into the level 1 with a plan, but when you, of course, throughout the game, it wasn't like they all of a sudden out macroed the side of CFO to these objectives. It was really CFO saying, hey, you want this objective, you can have it, because we're still getting farm in all the lanes. And you talked about, hey, BYG don't exactly teach massive amounts of wave manipulation, and you saw that, right? It wasn't like the side of CFO were down in CS. They were actually ahead in CS in some cases. Rest was able to accumulate farm leads. Even Mission died 3 times in lane, had a farm lead. So even all that we said for BYG going for them, it was really just, hey, we outskill you right now because we also outstats you. So come at us.
That's definitely a fair analysis to that one. I think it also goes to show just how formidable these CFO players really are when they can continually out CS despite being some of the worst deficits that we've seen this game. Taking a look at the damage charts here, Rest is going to be leading all members from both teams, but in a losing effort, and there really was no comeback. Starting from just minute 1, it was all the way and Beyond Gaming. So CTBC might still be the top financial institution in Taiwan, but in the battle of the banks, we do have Megabank Beyond Gaming coming out on top in this one.
Yeah, and it was still an impressive victory by all means. Just the fact that they were able to outskill a very good mechanical squad as well. And MVP goes to Husha. He really delivered on this Rek'Sai pick. Yes, the level 1 helps out, but he effectively snowballed around mid lane, capitalizing on an additional 2 kills onto mission with this Rek'Sai, and he was able to attack topside, keeping topside down, and for the most part, shutting out Gemini out of his own jungle and preventing him from interacting the other lanes, which means that Wako was also able to get those 2v kills bot lane.
It was absolutely beautiful stuff from Husha. Every single gank he did in the early game led to a kill. I will say that, sure, the enemy team was missing a lot of flashes to begin with, but hey, he was still very effective at catching that ball and leading it into a complete win. Catching that ball, because the enemy threw. Okay, but congratulations to Beyond Gaming, and now the circle of Suck in the top 8 is actually completed. So we have a lot more of these battles to look forward to. Don't go anywhere, as we will come back with our third game of the match right off the break.